Newcastle United won 3-1 versus Brighton. What does this victory mean for Newcastle? And does it drag Eddie Howe out of the mud? And finally, Arsenal are through to the Champions League final. We'll talk about when is it Newcastle's turn? Find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Shea. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Shea away.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be right here with me. And God bless you all for being here. I'm absolutely super duper, duper excited about tonight's show because I'm a bit revved up. Watching it's crazy. I'm watching opposition fans team, but still watching Arsenal get to the Champions League final. I'm like, man, I know we can do this. I know that Newcastle will be watching Newcastle one day doing the same things as well, hopefully. So tonight shows I'm gonna be weaving that into it with the, kind of that having that sort of view going forward, and I'm also super excited to see tons and tons of people in the chat. Going to greet you all in a moment as well. But first, I want to be able to say what's on tonight's show. We're going to be doing a reaction to the 3-1 victory over Brighton. We've been a much needed victory, which we got over the line, and talk about the game itself. Then we're going to talk about, I haven't got to read this article, but it's an article from the Iron newspaper again, talking about Eddie Howe possibly, well, essentially staying. That's also kind of been verified in different areas by the likes of Ornstein, even though there are some corners of journalists, I think Craig Hope possibly, correct me if I'm wrong, and others who are saying it's not all nailed on yet. It's not like a thousand proof just yet. Yes, it's heading to that direction, but it's not quite there yet. But regardless, this article from the Iron newspaper gives a number of caveats to Eddie Howe staying. And what that would mean. So let's go through that. We're going to talk about that. And finally, we're going to be doing a scouting report on not only one, not only two, but three players, God willing, we get time, in all three different positions. But as always, guys, we like to look deep into the players that we're talking about, not only about what metrics they come up with, scouting profiles, but also what it means in the context of their individual teams, but also how would they fit into our structure, or what could it also be saying about the structure of our team going forward as well. But before we get into the match reaction, my eyes literally widened. I'm so encouraged to see so many people already in the chat before the show started. My eyes widened to see all the folks in there as well. Before I should get into it, but yes, congratulations to Arsenal. I was just talked about earlier. I thought I mentioned it, but I want to say congratulations to Arsenal for getting into the Champions League final. It was a very, 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 very good game to watch. Very intense game. Yes, it was a 1-0, but it was a very, very entertaining 1-0 to watch. And congratulations to you guys. Plus, you're like literally 2-3 games away from winning the Premier League. Could you have the most prestigious cup double? We'll find out. But big story obviously around Arteta, Arsenal. Not too dissimilar for what Eddie Howe and Newcastle fans are going through at the moment. Some people that want Eddie Howe might not want to hear that, but Mr. Arteta did finish 8th twice, 2 seasons in a row. And then if anybody knows anything about Arsenal fans, there was a big divide on Arteta. But should he win the Premier League and or the double, for instance, I think that would make the wait all the more worth waiting for, essentially. But we'll talk about it. It adds a bit of context to our show. Let's do it. Good to see my man Oliver here. Big up to you, sir. God bless you. Good to see you. We'll be in the Champions League final soon, exactly. And I love that attitude. That's exactly what I love to hear. Already see you saying that already before the show started, and that's exactly where we're heading to. I love that attitude. Oliver says in 2 seasons we'll win the we'll win the Champions League. Let's go for it. Absolutely. Good to see my man Adrian. God bless you. As always, keeping keep adding substance and objectivity to the show as always. My man Ches, all the way from South Africa. If it wasn't for Ches, I couldn't say good afternoon, good morning, good evening. But it's fans like Ches from all the way from international fans like Ches. I can say we have an international channel as always. But God bless you, Ches. Let me know what time it is in South Africa. But he says, evening all, hi Philip, hope all is well. All is very well. My man Andrew is here. Evening all, evening to you, sir. Give me a list of players, fantastic players to look at. Thankfully, I am looking at one of them today, and I'll be doing some further research on the names that you sent me today as well. But good to see Andrew as always. God bless you. James says, I feel sorry, I mate, but Phil, but Lewis leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Me too. And me too, James. Honestly, him getting injured, missing the rest of the season, just when the team and the system was beginning to stabilize, it's just so annoying. Obviously, Trippier can more than do the job, but it's not quite the same with Miley. And you just wanted to see him gather up that steam, gather up that pace before the summer. But look, man, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let me see if there's any more that I hopefully I haven't missed anybody. Good evening to you, Andrew. Let's see if Obadrug's sober enough to grace us with his presence. I bet you he'll come on. I bet you he'll come on. It'll be great to see him. Absolutely. Ches says South Africa is only one. Oh yeah, you did tell me that it's only 1 hour ahead. In my mind, I'm like, you guys are like in a different dimension in terms of anything. 1 hour ahead of you. Sorry, I couldn't be more excited. In my mind, you guys are like 5 hours ahead or 5 hours behind or whatever. I don't know. It's crazy. All right, so let's get into it. A match reaction. Now, this is, look, where do I start? Let me start with the lineup. And you guys know I'm not, in fact, I always like, I'm going to have to switch between, because I like Sofa Scores, or is it FotMob's lineups when they do the lineups. We'll go back to the Opta Analyst because I like different sites for different things. But I like the layout. I'm not always a fan of the layout for what do you call it? What do you call it? For Opta Analyst. All right, so let me show you guys this. Newcastle 3-1. Can you see this? Amazing. Yes, you can. All right, so Newcastle 3-1. If we tie it back to our show on Thursday, I think I gave a 2-1 prediction. I want to say, Adrian, you gave a 3-2 prediction. It was Adrian or somebody gave a 3-2 prediction. Forgive me, Adrian, if it's not you, but someone gave a 3-2 prediction. But we were all, I felt like the majority, or at least those that were sent in the comments, were fairly kind of, we were hopeful, we were nervous, but we gave fairly positive predictions. Now, I mention that because we know that there was pressure. There's tons of pressure on how it was you, agent. Thank you. I'm glad I wasn't wrong. There was a lot of pressure going into this game. Now, obviously, for Brighton, they're trying to secure a Champions League spot. They're fighting really hard for it. We saw how good they are. For us, it's and what's so good? Tottenham won. I can't remember who else won. If we lost this game, we would have been people would have been saying, "Hey, this relegation talk." I think Newcastle are fighting relegation right now. So that was good for that reason to get away from that drop zone. But also, it was in front of the owners, the representative of the owners. Obviously, Mr. Yasser Al Rahman was there as well, looking suave. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw the split screen between Yasser Al Rahman and Brighton's chairman. Now I know the man is very successful, Mr. Bloom, but goodness gracious me, if it were the contrast in swagger, shall we say, is very far apart. But Eddie Howe was in front of the owners, he was in front of the fans, and it's good to see the fans also backing Eddie Howe. The online fans, some of them, not the majority, but the sounds of it, aren't so much. There's a lot of pressure, considering obviously they had that big meeting at I forgot the name of the hall now, I forgot the name of the hall, talking all things transfers. Is Eddie Howe staying? Is he not staying? Now, Ornstein's come out to say he's staying. The I newspaper, the Athletic have all been saying he's staying. But I think Craig Hope and others, there's a few in the background. Let me know if what you guys have heard, but are kind of like on edge on it. But essentially, a lot of pressure, especially on Newcastle, especially on Eddie Howe, especially on the players, to get this over the line. Now, this is reflected in the starting lineup itself. And Eddie Howe talked about how a lot of controversy around essentially when he first gave the starting lineup. But Eddie Howe, obviously, in the post-match conference, was saying he chose the players that he knew. I'm paraphrasing here, but he chose the players that he knew he can rely on, he can depend upon. Now, because I haven't seen him that full interview and others, but if you just take the quote in itself, it kind of sounds as if he's casting aspersions to those that were not present and or on the bench essentially. But I don't think, for me personally, I'm not going to be too much into it. But you guys can give your take on it, because obviously, let's talk about the starting lineup. Now, I predicted, I thought that Wissa, for instance, Wissa would start and possibly I said Wissa, Gordon, Elanga would start, and I was wrong on all three. I did get Joe Linton right, which was nice, but I'm pleasantly happy that I did get those wrong because, again, this is in hindsight and it was a risk. He rewarded the players that have been consistent for him, and those players rewarded him. Mr. Osola, obviously, even though he didn't score against Arsenal, still had a decent game. And up to that point, up to the Brighton game, he scored 2 and 3. He's now rewarded Eddie Howe with another goal, scored 3 and 4 now. And I thought let me know what you guys thought, but I thought him, especially him and Willock up front, adding that pace, power, mobility, running in behind, joining the play, disrupting Brighton's lines, never really letting Brighton's defensive defense settle. And we know how they got those ball playing centre backs in the if Brighton. Once you allow those boys to start dictating play, it becomes very, very, very difficult to get yourself back into the game. And because they never let them settle on or off the ball, I think it always gave Newcastle a chance in terms of being able to get something from the game, even when our backs were against the wall, especially in the kind of first 10, 15 minutes or so. I know that we scored. I can't remember when we scored fairly early, but I thought Brighton were getting the better in the early exchanges, in my opinion. But those boys rewarded Eddie Howe for his patience. And obviously, Jacob Murphy kept Jacob Murphy on, who also got the assist. And we know that he scored a very, very, very good assist. He had the choice, when the ball comes over the top, he runs in behind, goalkeeper comes out, makes a clumsy challenge. Murphy obviously is knocked off his feet, but gets up super, super quick. And he delivers an incredible ball into the box. And speaking of a ball into the box, who's in the box? Mr. Osola. And you can just tell where he was in between the two defenders that him, Eddie Howe, and Tyndale have been working really, really, really hard on making sure he's in the right place at the right time as a striker. And he's been doing that a lot, a lot. Yes, he does those fantastic runs on the ball and he outpaces defenders. His pace, by the way, is incredible. Every game, I feel like he's getting faster and faster. But he was in the right place at the right time, in between the two centre backs. Doesn't overcomplicate as he tends to do sometimes, especially one-on-ones. But he doesn't overcomplicate it and heads it straight into the goal. I thought and both obviously we're talking about Mr. Murphy rewarding Eddie Howe back for the trust that he's shown in him to continue playing in this game. So I thought he did really, 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 really well. And going into the game, obviously people were also saying, has Eddie Howe, given his resignation letter with the starting lineup? This is the wrong starting lineup, and this is just all about him. Resignation letter, him saying this is defeat. It turns out it wasn't. And I'm sighing because it's disappointing, because there are a lot of there's a few, I feel like, folks online, especially whose opinions I really trust and respect in general. But it's disappointing when, and I have to do this myself as well. Admit when you're wrong, right? Even Howe's substitutes, I think, in the game were timely because and they paid off in the end. They were saying he didn't do his substitutes early enough. He made the first substitute before Herzler did, right? And anyway, so Barnes obviously rewarded him with a goal. Wissa also got an assist. We know that Wissa also made an incredible miss, but again, he's in the right place at the right time. His movement, his runs, his spins, getting on the last shoulder of the centre backs again disrupts the opposition's back line, disrupted the Brighton's back line continuously. And if you saw him, he was actually behind Van Heck, who I think it was just tiredness, the way he tried to clear the ball. He managed to keep his head. I know, kind of when he got into the box, I know he kind of stumbled and fumbled a little bit with it, but the ball fell into the right person's boot in Barnes, who at first I was like, just hit it. And he didn't hit it. He did an incredible dummy, ice cold veins, and plotted it straight into the goal. I thought it was really, really good. So, he's starting on that really, really paid off for him as well. Andrew says Brighton performance was full of effort, heart, and desire. That should be there every single game, win, lose, or draw. I absolutely agree with that. And Andrew says, in any job, when the big boss turns up, performances normally improve a lot. Exactly. It would have been worrying if it didn't, isn't it? Raymond says, hi, Toon, Philip, how are you? PIF owners no longer for Newcastle United now. Newcastle now should be now sold now, and Amanda Staley should buy Newcastle United now from Ray. I hear you, Ray. I don't think it's going to happen. You're very consistent with this message, but I don't think it's going to happen. But God bless you. Good to see you. Andrew says, the Solar is technically and attribute-wise the nearest we have to Isak. Yeah, at the moment, it should be Whistle, really. But in terms of pace and on the ball, none of them are going to be as good at dribbling as he is. But I see what you're saying. And I'm not saying he's like this player, by the way, but you see his gait, his running gait. Doesn't it remind you of Mbappe? I'm not saying he's Mbappe. I'm just saying his running gait reminds you of Mbappe. Like, it's incredible. Raymond says, hi, Toon, Philip. Are you Newcastle versus Brighton? My man of the match is Willa Sulla. That's a good call. That's a very good call. I'm not an Eddie Howe fan. I am a Newcastle fan, ready from May. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. Whether you're Eddie Howe in or out, the main thing is you're a fan of Newcastle. You want the best for Newcastle. So that's what it is. Andrew says Osula is the right fit for now. Eddie Howe likes to play. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if he sees out the season, to be honest. Ray wants Jabi Alonso appointed for Newcastle. I don't think it's happening. But Andrew's mind, I'll sell him for 50 million. Who would replace him? I wonder, Andrew. Let me know. Who would replace him? Andrew says, not going to properly judge Wilson until he's had a proper preseason, at least 5 or 6, 90 minutes. Fair play. And you know what? That's patience. And really, that's how we should judge players. I typically like to give players 2 years. I've been honest though, where I said, if if Wissa is available to be sold, we should sell him because it will take a lot of our wage bill and add somebody new. But as you say, and as been alluded to, he does fit our system. There is a player there, and they might decide to keep him. If anything, I feel like there's more and more kind of going towards Voldemort being sold, if anything. Big up to my man, Wobo. Congratulations, Wobo. Congratulations to you and Arsenal. Made it to the Champions League final. You're also 3 games away, maybe even 2 games away from becoming Premier League champions. You must be on cloud 9. Wobo says, hey, Phil, hope all is good, man. Nothing new on my end. What about you? Yeah, just another Champions League final. You're playing it cool. Good to see. I'll use a couple more chats and then we'll get back into it. I want to be able to look at a few stats from the game as well. James says, personally, just happy to see a good performance. Yes, exactly. Me too, James. Me too. Yes, there's a little bit of extremeness from Nick Pope. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna. Yeah, you just reminded me one moment, but I was really happy with the general. Where is it? I missed what you said there. With the general player of the team, it seemed a lot. Guys, fantastic. That was a fantastic comment, actually. And thanks for reminding me about Pope. Folks, do send me who was your man of the match. I'll give mine towards the end. I don't think I even made up my mind on it just yet. Do let me know. Going to great Andrew says going to be a massive loss if we sell him. He is, and that's what they've been talking about on many articles. But it sounds like from Newcastle sources that Newcastle are willing to take that loss should it happen, which is very, very interesting. But yes, back to it. Excuse me, James did remind me of Nick Pope. Nick Pope, to me, summarized what Newcastle's season have been. On the one hand, the man's kept stopped us from having a bad start to the game where, like, I think it was Hinshelwood who burst through the middle of our defense after a Matoma cutback in the first, 30 seconds, first minute of the game. And he made that really, really good save. And he made a number of other good saves actually as well. And you're just thinking, brilliant. But then the his kicking is almost cost us the game as well, where he kicked it against, I want to say against, I can't remember who it was against, guys. If you guys remember who kicked the ball against, was it Gross? Was it Pascal Gross? And it hit the post. Jeez Louise. That's when I posted, can Newcastle just give Trafford whatever he wants? I had to post that. And even the goal that Brighton scored, it all came from a Pope just kicking the ball high up in the air, not far, but just high up in the air, put pressure on us, and then Brighton just had like 1-2 touches went into our penalty box, and scored from that. And he just created all of our problems for ourselves, which has been, and that game, that Pope game was everything for me what Newcastle seasons have been. I know this is a bit more deeper than that, but it really nearly cost us the game. Anyway, but also another person who rewarded Eddie Howe's choice, Dan Burn. Dan Burn had a really, really good game, in my opinion. So good that, and we were worried about Minte's influence. Now, Minte, if Newcastle were to go back in for Minte, I wouldn't be sad about that. But he was so good that Minte then tried his luck on the other side of the pitch against Miley, and he was getting no joy out of Miley. Now, Minte did have an influence. I'm not going to say he shut him out. He didn't. Minte had a lot of crosses into the box. In fact, if I click on him, can I click on him? Here we go. He did have a lot. You can see here from his heat map. In fact, can you see? Yes, you can see. Let me get back into it. Where is it? Here we go. It was on both sides of the pitch. They give him a really low score rating, SofaScore, but I don't trust SofaScore ratings anyway. So left and right of the pitch, you can see where his heat map was. What was his level of creativity? Expected goal. He missed a sitter as well. I'm not going to talk about him too much, but expected assist 0.06 actually. Expected goal 0.32, but 0.06. So that's how much they kept Lowe's creativity. At 13 crosses throughout the game, only one of them was accurate. And I think that's because he consistently he didn't get a chance to really kind of get in behind and do any cutbacks or anything like that. He had to always do it from the outside of in the half space on the wide areas where we kept him. So we kept his influence fairly quiet. Same thing for Mr. Matoma, who's also very quiet on the left side of the pitch, or was kept fairly quiet. His expected assists were also 0.06. So I think, between Miley, Dan Burn kept them really, really quiet. And that's why Joe Linton was put onto that left side of the pitch, to support with the defensive work over Ramsey, for instance, in this case. Bruno Guimaraes got the assist as is customary. Again, has lifted the quality and the level of performance of the team. Great to have our captain back as always. But all the players that Eddie Howe has stuck by with have rewarded him. And I thought that was the key. I think that was the key. And, some of these players aren't everybody's tea. Some of these players might not even be in the team next season. But I thought they justified Eddie Howe's selection and made it work in my view. Quick look on not so quick, but let's have a look on the old stats. I'm going to look at the messages as well. I want to look at the passing map. I haven't had a chance to absorb this just yet, but let's see what you guys are saying. Andrew says, if we could find a keeper who can use his feet like Ramsdale and use his hands like Pope, yes, precisely. We did have a show on goalkeepers as well. We're leaning towards Trafford, but I just don't think we'll go for Trafford. I don't think we're in for Trafford. I know there's a lot of articles saying we are. There's just something in me that says that plus I think maybe his wages. But to be fair, a lot more articles in our newspaper are saying that we are in for him. I'm just not convinced. James says, but I would love Trafford basically. James says, man of the match, Miley, last one of the season though. Good call. Draymond says, hi to Philip, how are you? My man of the match is Willa Sulla. Yeah. Did I read that one already? Fair play. I wouldn't be surprised. That makes a sense actually. Andrew says, when Ramsdale plays, it's like having an extra defender who's allowed to use his hands in the box. But minus a goalkeeper who doesn't get his positioning right. Exactly. Where is it? Ian says Eddie Howe is the most successful manager in our lifetimes. 100%. Absolutely. Get a grip. I've got the grip. Have I lost my grip, guys? Have I said something? Let me know, guys. I thought, yeah, I'm full agreement. I got the grip, man. Adrian says, question for you, Phil. Let me drink my tea before. I know it's going to be a good question. Adrian says, question for you, Phil. I didn't watch the game and would like you to clarify what formation we played, as I've heard differing reports. We didn't play just the one formation. Let me go back to it. So where is the screen? Because up to analyst would be, it's got the average positions. That's not going to help. Let me go back on the old. There's a couple because it's going to help me to visualize it. There is a couple. So you're seeing it as, obviously they weren't playing like this. They were made, especially out of possession, Adrian, we were in a 4-4-2. So with Willock and Usola up front, Willock helping, especially with the transition, whether carrying the ball from the midfield up front, or when we got the ball, or when we're out of possession with Brighton on the ball, both were up front together, chasing down the ball together, with either Tonali and or Bruno in behind, kind of central, marking out Hinchelwood and or Gross when we're pressing, especially. So that was like in the 4-4-2. It would break into a 4-3-3 when we're in attack. So Sola and Willock will go off with either Murphy on the right going off, and or it's supposed to be and or Tonali or Bruno following up in advanced areas. But Sola and Willock are so quick, it ends up just being those two. But typically Murphy would follow up and or Bruno as well. So it's like it's going to a 4-4-2 stroke 4-3-3 in attack. Brighton were very, very good on the ball. And especially towards the second half and a bit of the first half, would go into a 5-4-1, especially towards the 70th, 80th mark, where I think who came on the field? We had an extra defender that came on the field. Lewis Hall came on for Joe Willock, which meant that we had three at the back. We had Botman, Chow, Byrne, and then Mr. Hall came on, which made it into a 5. So we had a 5-3-2 with Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton, with Osola and somebody else, and Wissa. Oh no, Osola came off Wissa. It was Wissa and Barnes. So Wissa and Barnes came on as the front two. So it was a 5-3-2. So we had about 3 formations essentially through that game. Hope that answers your questions. Let me know, Adrian, if there's anything you want me to add to that. Minte was disappointing, thankfully. Absolutely. And I think we played a big part. Our players, especially Byrne, played a big part in that, in my opinion. Let me visit one more before I go back. Yeah, Brighton's corners weren't great. Jolin had a very good game, and I think he was in that kind of mood where he played with a lot of intention. He was going to have a good game, whether it killed him. He's going to have a good game. I thought it was really good. Really supported Byrne at the back. Did what he was supposed to do in that half space. Actually, in fact, let me just double check his heat map, because I've got this image in my head, which I think is correct, where he did a lot of supporting for Dan Byrne. Let's see his heat map. Yeah, he did. Can you guys see that? So this is Joe Linton's heat map. Yeah, you guys can see that. Brilliant. So that is his heat map. You can see the big the heat map going into the right direction. Big heat maps on the opposition half space in our half, essentially. This is where he's supporting primarily Dan Byrne down the left-hand side, but also going into those advanced areas in that just before the half space in the final third for the opposition. And I think that's when we came in to support the press. So remember, it's going into it was a 4-4-2 that will go into a 4-3-3 press with Willock and Osola splitting, with either Bruno following up and or Tonali or Joe Linton following up, marking out Gross, Hinshelwood, whoever wasn't those centre points, because you know that Brighton like to have the 2 pivots, and that worked really. I'd love to know actually how many long balls that Verbruggen had to resort to as a result. I don't know if they've got that. High claims 2, errors leading to a goal 1, saves under the box 3. He prevented 1.21 goals. That lets you know just how much he had to do. How many long balls did he have to do? So he was forced to make 18 long balls. I wonder what the average is. There's only 3 of them successful. I wonder what his average is throughout the season. But I think we forced him into that because of our pretty decent press. All right, so quick one. Can you guys see my screen? Yes, you can. I always like to double check. All right, so I wanted to see a couple things in the so good XG for us as well, by the way. Obviously, the most important metric, 3 goals. That's the important one for us, with Brighton scoring 1. That's the most important metric. But obviously, Brighton had the lion's share of possession, 67% to our 32, which is not unsurprising. It probably worked for us, actually. And I would say it was probably by design as well. But we both had 13 shots on target each. Also shots with 6 on target to their 4. And what you'll see in the XG table, actually, now what's impressive is, here's what I want to show you guys. This is the XG. So Newcastle got 3.27 XG. I like this chart now that they've got, actually. And what it shows is, so Newcastle got Newcastle are in the pink here, 3.27. Brighton are in the 1.64. So what it's showing is now the bottom shows the minutes of the game, 0 to 90 minutes, and on the left hand side, which is the y-axis, I think, horizontal shows the number of xg. So what you can see with Newcastle in the pink here is that we are consistently creating chances of opportunity throughout the game, and we're doing it. So Brighton, but we are doing it at a far higher rate than Brighton. So yes, Brighton have, you even see on the attacking momentum. Yes, Brighton have the lion's share of possession, but when it comes to creating the better of the chances, it's Newcastle. And I think what it shows is that we're far more clinical in the opposition box. We're also creating a lot more. You saw Jacob Murphy, you saw Bruno Gomes via the corner. Who scored oh, and obviously Wissa for Barnes. So we were far more deadly, far more devastating in the opposition half. Kind of almost kind of going back to our old ways in certain parts. Winning ugly. We haven't really seen us. Was it an ugly victory? Sort of. It became that, I think, towards the end. We had 12 shots inside their box to their 10. We had only one shot outside the box to their 3. So it shows you just how I think intentional we were in terms of the chances we created and the type of chances we created. Let me see something. I wanted to show you guys know that I love to. Oh, they've got a really colorful XG map now. You can see here. So Newcastle are on the left here with the bigger circles. So the bigger the circles, guys, the bigger the circles, the bigger the XG or the chances that were created. And the pink ones also are the goals. So Brighton are on the right here. We see they scored that goal from the inside there on the right here. Newcastle on the left, and this is shots as well. And you can see predominantly Newcastle shots are all in and around Brighton's box in some really, really dangerous areas. I can't, when I click on it, it doesn't show me who did it, like who made those shots as well. But again, Newcastle being very, very productive inside the box as well. So I thought it was a good performance from an attacking point of view. Now I want to look at the passing map before we get into something else. Oh, there's the XG map. Here we go. There's another one here. So if you look at us, this is the Wissa opportunity. This one here, if you guys remember, the one where Hall, who came on, had a really, really good cameo appearance. 10, 15 minutes. I thought was really, really impressive. Was unlucky not to walk away with an assist. Had Wissa been more clinical in front of the box, but that was a 0.6 chance as well, 60% chance that was the score. Malik Chow, guys, do you remember the Malik Chow? That was in the first half as well when we were 2-0 up and we had an opportunity to go 3-0 up. I keep on forgetting about that chance. 0.18 right in front of the box. Well made set piece as well. So we were unfortunate in that. Osola missing a 0.3 chance as well. I'm trying to remember that one. I think is it when he hit it over? When he made that really, really good run, again, making devastating runs as well. So, and then there's a Minte chance right in front of the goal. I think that should have been higher, but fine. So I thought we were very, very impressed with the goal in front of the goal. This is our passing map. So from left to right, and for those that are not familiar, the thicker the lines, the higher the frequency of passing between those said players. So you can see Pope is number 1. So between Pope and Botman, there was 9 passes throughout the game, with 3 coming from Botman back to Pope, and Pope to Botman 6. So the thicker the lines, the higher frequency. Now we don't spend too much time. We had a very low possession, so most of the lines are not very thick at all. The frequency is fairly low. The greater part being between Miley and Chow, 14 passes between them there on the right-hand side. We were fairly direct, especially trying to work it from within. And you can see actually the higher the frequencies between, you can see the pattern here from Pope Botman to Joe Linton, then to Nali through the middle, but then also feeding Willock. And you can see it's actually Willock in average position, was the closest to Usola, who's by himself here. But essentially, between Willock and Tonali, 7 passes. Between Willock and Botman, 6 passes. Between Willock and Burn, 4 passes. Between Murphy and Willock, between 4 passes. So a lot was going through Willock, especially his ability in ball carrying. Him and Osoda worked tirelessly, off the ball, and I thought were from phenomenal. Now, like I said, this is the thinnest I've seen these lines throughout the season, but we took a very, very what's the word? Kind of vertical approach, going in behind, using our pace via Willock, Osola, and a bit of Murphy as well. Obviously, Murphy got the assist with the ball over the top, and it paid off. It really, really worked for us, especially. So 3-1, like I said, we had less possession of the ball. We had less, if you look at the attacking momentum, but we had a plan, which was to be very direct when we can, to disrupt the defensive lines, Brighton's defensive lines from the back through on and off the ball, but also get in behind as much as possible, create that gap between their defense and the midfield, close them down, don't just allow them to have free reign in passing, but the main thing in terms of getting behind, getting inside the box, and we were very, very clinical inside the box when we could be. So 3-1 victory. My man of the match. My man of the match. Let me see. Not too many of you guys have sent your man of the match. Sheesh, there's a few. There is a few. Who is my man of the match? Botman had a really good game as well. Botman and Chow had very, very solid games. I didn't speak about them enough. I haven't made up my mind. Guys. I should have done this before I started the show. I can't make up my mind. For me, it's between Osola, Bruno, Dan Burn, and Chow. I can't make up my mind. I'll give it to. I'll give it to Osola. I will give it to Osola. I think he made the difference. He's making a difference as well. But let me know who you guys' man of the match is. I am very, very, very keen to hear this. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat before we get into the next part of the show. Why does my chat look? My settings looks different from what I usually have it. I feel. Let me know, guys. Oliver Sadilanga, is that your man of the match? Yeah, I don't think he played. Raymond's given his Solar as well, so me and Raymond have gone for a Solar. Cool. I don't see too many others, but let me know what you guys are saying. Let's get into. So yeah, I think we came away. We rode a lot. I think we came away as deserved victors. All right, folks. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. Now, as mentioned, and moving on from the match reaction, this is hopefully we remain consistent. We've got Nottingham Forest next. We're going to be doing the match preview for this on Thursday, and obviously they're riding high at the moment. James has gone for Miley. Thanks for that, James. Good call. Um, again, another one to mention. I thought he did really well down that right hand side as well. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. I'm gonna go for like I said, I'll go for Sola, and hopefully we remain consistent. It's going to be a very different game against Forest. I think they're going to want us to have more of the ball. That's why it would have been lovely to have Miley, but alas, we are not going to have Miley. But onwards and upwards. We dealt with the pressure, and hopefully we will continue to go from strength to strength. Okay, so next up. Now, I've got this article before we get into the scouting reports and everything else, but we've got this article from the Eye newspaper. Now, I haven't had a chance to read the Eye that's just yet, so a lot of this stuff I'm going to have to let marinate as well. But as always, it covers when it's from our man. I think it's Mark Doug who made it. It is from Mark Douglas. Always a very balanced writer, very balanced journalist. Can't get this ad stuff away. It's so annoying, but it is what it is. This is obviously, this is the title. Newcastle owners give Eddie Howe their full backing with 4 major caveats. Now, some fans are happy with the Eddie Howe backing, some are not, but it is what it is. So, what are the major caveats? Manager retains hierarchy support, says Mark Douglas, as the club plan for a considerable summer rebuild. And this is from today. All right, so it goes on to say, why is this? How do I get this thing off, man? Jeez. Because I can't see anything now. Sorry, guys. Let me stop sharing for a minute. Where did this ad come from? Some big old ad. I can't even get off. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay, so hopefully it works now. Hopefully it works now. Like, I don't know, this big old ad just came onto the screen. I can't get it off. So it goes on to say Eddie Howe will get the chance to lead Newcastle United's biggest rebuild since the club's 2021 takeover, but significant change is also expected this summer. So we know that Mark Douglas previously had a lot of contacts with Paul Mitchell. I don't know. I suspect he's got lots of contacts with PIF, possibly also with the new recruitment in Ross Wilson and others. But it's difficult to tell for me who is not speaking through him, but who his sources are in this. Let me know if you guys have what you guys would think. Anyway, he goes because it's important for us to think about to know who are the likely sources, because it kind of lets us know, obviously who's trying to shape the narrative and what exactly going on. Anyway, he goes on to say consensus on Howe's future is not a break in development, which is true. Everybody knows about it. That has been the direction of travel at St. James's Park for weeks, but it required results to match the confidence of the hierarchy in their man. That's interesting because that maybe kind of alludes to the Brighton game itself. And I do wonder if Newcastle lost the Brighton game, would we have had such conclusive statements via major journalists like David Ornstein to say that Eddie Howe would be staying here next season. Now, it goes on to say that has been the direction of travel. Sorry. Sources have stressed, I wonder who the sources are, have stressed that it's not a response to Saturday's win. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So they should ask because we've always had this plan, which is true actually. Saturday's win or the Matfen Hall. That's it, Matfen Hall beatings. I was thinking, what was the name of this hall? It's Matfen Hall, which were characterized as positive as Saudi Arabia's public investment fund reaffirmed its commitment and ambition for the club. Now, I go on to say Eddie Howe has always had, and it's important for them to say this isn't just we're not this isn't a knee jerk situation. So yes, would have sacked Eddie Howe if we didn't win the Brighton game, or no, would have kept him on if had he not been. I think they're trying to show that this is strategic. They believe in their man essentially, which I think they do. He goes on to say instead, Howe has always had enough credit in the bank to ride out a rough season, and there is mitigation. We've talked about the poor recruitment structure, the abandonment of his duties from Paul Mitchell. At one rival Premier as one prime at one prime excuse me at one Premier League club which operates advanced metrics, the the belief is that Newcastle performances have outstripped their points return. So there's a source from a rival Premier League club who are looking at the metrics and saying they should have essentially got better from their performances than they have done. Uh, there is some truth to that. We've looked at it before. The club's own data points to a broadly similar picture, but there are also red flags that cannot be ignored. Absolutely, especially our individual errors that lead to goals. I do believe that's in the system breakdown that we talked about before. It goes on to say adapting and developing a word that adapting and developing a word that a word that club chairman Yasser Al swears by are viewed as essential. And Howe said on Friday he was not stuck in one way. Change, this is the quote from Howe, change can be a really positive thing, he said. So what is he expected to do? Here are the caveats. Recruitment. Got a picture of Mr. Tino Livramento here, who's also been linked to Arsenal. Apparently agreeing personal terms if you trust Hand of Arsenal, who's another big account and source. He also agreed terms of City before City backed away. So I don't know what's happening with Tino. But going to say clubs live and die by recruitment. And last summer, Summers, in the words of one person with knowledge of what happened, set Newcastle back 2 seasons. I agree. So I actually think I was thinking this before. Actually, I think that when I was comparing us to Aston Villa, if Aston Villa qualify for the Champions League, which I think they're set to do, and win the Europa the Europa League, excuse me, we're about 2 seasons behind them. So I agree. They panicked and awkwardly for how he was central to a lot of the decisions taken. Interesting. Awkwardly for how. That almost as much as anything has happened on the pitch has harmed him. True. So it is perhaps a good thing for him that there are more collaborations planned this summer when there must be a pivot in transfer policy. So what's that going to be? What is that going to be? Responsibility for talent identification. Let's go for this. So there's going to be shared responsibility. Responsibility for talent identification will be shared. It used to be just Eddie Howe's. And I think this is in the back of the Wissa stuff. Or even no, Elanga. Rather than Wissa, it's more to do with the Wissa choice. Shortlists are being worked up. And for the first time under Howe, off the radar led targets are being considered. Off the radar data led, excuse me, off the radar data led targets are being considered. So a bit of a money ball type of situation going on here. It's let's see how feels about that, but let's see. He goes on to say, sporting director. This is who's responsible for the Moneyball target, off the radar data led targets. Sporting director, and I know there's a lot of people about to get into it, but there's a lot of people saying, yeah, Ross Wilson, we need him more. Like he's good. There's going to be some good, it's better for him to be, to be identifying these players and everything else. But from what I've seen, Um, what I've seen is, uh, Mr. Wilson's transfer record isn't like picture perfect. It's not as good as Howe's actually. So let's see how that goes. I wouldn't be like so much leaning on him for talent identification. But anyway, sporting director Ross Wilson, whose relationship with Howe is excellent, and that's good. That's important. That's very very important. And feels critical to overseeing the changes required. Has been has been chairing recruitment meetings for weeks. So it's Wilson who's chairing the recruitment meetings. That's good. Recruitment meetings for weeks, and there is a belief that they are well placed to strike when the transfer window opens. Very, very important. Manager and sporting director have a good relationship, and that people are prepared and ready for the transfer window. For me personally, I feel this as well. I've been thinking this for a number of weeks. You guys have been following, and we've been talking a lot about how the transfer window has been shaping up. I agree with the sentiment that I think we are well placed to at least to get off to a good start in the transfer window, in my opinion. Anyway, the second caveat, selling well, and it's got a picture of Mr. Gordon, who's now linked to Barcelona and now as well. Goodness gracious. Both Bayern and Barca are doing a great job making this a very public negotiation, by the way. Unnecessary, but it is what it is. Or necessary for them. Maybe they want to encourage the players to try and go on strike. I think Isak legacy lives long into the memory of especially buying clubs. I really don't recommend that approach from them. But anyway, I digress. Or maybe I haven't. Newcastle also need to sell well, and Howe has to be comfortable letting some of his loyal servants leave. Last summer, for example, the club inexplicably pitched to Callum Wilson to sign another contract. A decision taken out of their hands when the striker opted to leave. So Callum Wilson could still be at Newcastle had he not opted to leave. That's interesting. How I said on Friday, no decision has been made on Fabian Shaw. That's interesting. I think a decision needs to be made. That decision is for him to exit. But anyway, but with the club only able to operate on a one in, one out recruitment policy, he probably has to be allowed to leave. Ooh, there's some tension there, I can see. Quote, we have to be comfortable selling players, was how one senior source put it last week. So you can see that there's a especially when it comes to exits, there's a how should I put it? There's a tension there. The club would prefer quick resolutions on the future of some like Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali. Sorry, guys. Ooh. Who seem to be open to furthering their careers elsewhere. So Tonali and Gordon are as well advertised to everybody else. And there seems to be a newfound ruthlessness in their approach to clean up recent mistakes too. That's interesting. Where does it get that from? Where's the ruthlessness? This is what we're going to get to. Andrew and others. We're going to talk about Johan Wissa. This is where the ruthlessness comes in. They will listen to offers. And again, for everyone that's listening to this, we talked about this even on last week, Thursday as well. This is very, very consistent, especially on the I newspaper. They will listen to offers for Johan Wissa and plan to extract maximum value for Odysseus Valicamus, who has impressed at Sevilla. Odysseus would be great to sell him, whatever. But Johan Wissa is an interesting one. We will take a 35 to 40 million loss on him, I think. There's the ruthlessness. Which is interesting. So, ruthlessness with Wissa, not so much ruthlessness with Fabian Shaw. Or there's a hold up there. I don't know what's going on there, but they're trying. Howe doesn't like a lot of changes in the squad. This is why. Howe doesn't like a lot of changes in the squad and believes that the high turnover of players allied with lack of time on the training pitch, is one of the reasons for the results tailing off. Let me know what you guys think of that. Oh, sorry, guys. As one of the reasons for results tailing off. Yes, he's right. But you have to manage this. You do have to manage this. This isn't going to change if I'm speaking to Hal, and if I, you know, it, you, this isn't going to change. The plan is for us to always be in the Champions Leagues or in Europe and stuff like that. So you're going to have these type of situations, and with the way we need to be operating, because our revenue hasn't grown as much to that point yet, we're going to have high turnovers. We're going to have a short time on the pitch. It's not favorable to you, but we have to. You have to find a way to manage this, I think. And as the next thing says, but the squad has grown stale and needs new energy, and that's exactly my point. That's the next line. He has grown stale and needs new energy, and he has to cope with this, in my opinion. And this is maybe why. This is maybe why, folks, the likes of Craig Hope and others, and I hope it's Craig Hope. I'll keep on saying Craig Hope. I think it's Craig Hope and others were saying that it's not nailed on that Eddie Howe does stay, even though that's what's been said out loud by various sources. I think the trajectory is leading to that towards that way. And even I saw a reply from Mark Douglas to somebody online saying that he'd be surprised if Howe doesn't stay. But it's I think this is where the main tension is for Howe and what's happening. But he's going to find across any other club who he will join with, in my opinion. Anyway, academy pathways. Obviously, Lewis Miley there. Lewis Miley has played almost 1,500 minutes in the Premier League this season. And he would have played more had he not been injured as well. So, one source of knowledge of the way PIF works told the ICE paper that Al Ramayan, so this is a PIF source, that Al Ramayan is obsessed with player development and youth pathways. Very interesting. And you've seen our under 14s. Congratulations on under 14s. I forgot the name of the cup. They won a cup. That's together with the under 15s. They've won 2 cups. I've also watched our under 21s batter Manchester United as well. And I think our under 18s are finishing third in the league. Guys, let me know in the league in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. They finished I think they finished in 13. Is it under 18s, under 21s? Let me know. So our youth are doing very, very well. So it is almost certain that he wanted to know how many prospects Newcastle have or who are close to the first team. Howe has championed talents like Elliot Anderson, he was right to, and Lewis Miley, but has a tendency to turn to trusted lieutenants. There was some disappointment at missed opportunity to hand academy prospect minutes during a dead rubber Champions League tie with Karabakh earlier this year. Now, this comes from a PIF source, and I know a number of you guys have talked about this in the chat as well. So it isn't all plain sailing. Howe's argument might be that he is picking those with big game experience like he did on Saturday against Brighton. But one insider believes Newcastle's window of opportunity to portray themselves as a development club is ebbing away. So after Miley, who else is there? Coveted overseas and domestic prospects will ask if Newcastle, apologies folks, I'm not even that tired, I've got this crazy yawn. Coveted overseas and domestic prospects will ask if St. James's Park is the best place for them if so few players get chances. Let me know what you guys think about that. Apologies, need that lemon to keep me something from yawning. But and I know a few of you in the chat been talking about youth not getting a chance. So PIF are saying it too. Oh, sorry guys. In another sign of their drive to improve their scouting network, the I newspaper understands apologies. I need that lemon. In another sign of their drive to improve their scouting network, the I paper understands that the Magpies are interested in the move for Oxford United head of recruitment, Scott Mitchell. And I think that move has been finalised to oversee monitoring of players between the ages of 18 and 21. That's a significant age because those are the players that they're going to be looking to get into the first team. Very interesting there. With new scouting roles based across Europe, there's tons and global as well. Newcastle are investing in talent ID, but it's important, they need a manager prepared to buy into that plan too, hence the tensions. So you can see the underlying surfaces here. New voices, question mark. A couple of weeks ago, it was put to Howe that his close-knit coaching group might benefit from new voices, and it is something that even greats like Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp have done in the past. True. Just last season, Guardiola brought in Pep Linders, a former Klopp ally, to inject fresh ideas into his coaching group. And there is a school of thought that the Newcastle manager needs to be challenged a bit more. Okay. Insiders point out that the most robust conversations take place every week, but they need more than one way of playing, which is what some fans have been saying. I disagree. I think that's something to do with the players that we're getting. And even in this Brighton game, we had like 3 or 4 different formations. But anyway, changes would require a buy-in from head coach who has retained the same group for most of his career, although Martin Mark arrived as their first set-piece coach last year. It may be that we see further additions to this group in the coming weeks. So they're hearing whispers, but they don't want to say anything. So there may be new staff coming into his coaching network, coaching side. So let me know what you guys think, which is super, super interesting because, okay, in conclusion, the article is saying, yes, we believe Eddie Howe is staying. There are caveats to this. There's recruitment. There's going to be some data-led recruitments coming in. There's the youth. There's those that have been sold. We've got to get rid of. Yes, be ruthless for players like Wissa. We also need to be ruthless for players like Fabian Schär, who Eddie Howe isn't overly enthused about selling. So there's tensions there. Academy prospects. They're saying, why didn't you play academy prospects in a dead rubber game against Karabakh? Hasn't been the good response to that, right? Now we're in a situation where there's young players who are trying to buy, and they're saying, but you guys don't even play your young players again in dead rubber games. How am I ever going to get into the first? What's the pathway? There's only so much you can talk about Miley and Hall and others. That pathway is beginning to run out. Who's new in this season, right? Then they're talking about his own coaching staff, which I think is going to be particularly personal to Howe because he has his close knit of coaches. And that's why none of this stuff is quite nailed on just yet. And I probably felt that it was more because the Athletic has been saying it for weeks, and Mark Douglas has been saying it for weeks. Then obviously Mr. Ornstein came out with it. But some of the points raised in this article, and again, Mark Douglas himself has qualified this article online and said, look, I'll be surprised that if Eddie Howe doesn't stay. But but there's some changes. There's some real changes that the owners want. Um, that there seems to be that's where the conflicts are. But let me know what you guys think. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe as well. I'll be keen to get your views. All right. So Ian says there, this the under 15s that just won the cup. Yes, phenomenal, brilliant, 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 brilliant. I thought it was the under 14s as well. Because I swear the under 15s won 2 cups. Under 14s won something as well. James says, you're right, Phil. Nearly everything below the under 18s all doing the same thing. Doing very, very well. Doing very, very well. It's good to see. One of them against PSG, one of the victories against PSG. Yes, that was good to see. Ian says the under 21s are doing so well, but under that, I'm not doing so well, I think it's saying. But under that, it's looking promising. I agree. It's looking very, very promising. Ian says the problem is that it takes years and we want everything now. I agree. Yes. No, it's okay. You're right. Thanks, Ches. Thank you for the reminder about the WhatsApp group. That is being worked on. I haven't forgotten. Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate it. Do keep reminding me it is going to happen. It absolutely is going to happen. Saka's just a lucky Elanga. No, he's super talented. Good to see my man Connor here. God bless you. He says, have I missed something, by the way? No, I haven't. Okay, sorry. Connor says, with the new Smiley's out for the season, this is the perfect opportunity to play Leo Shaha and show how can play with the youth. It is. My opinion, I don't think Shaha's quite ready, but yes, it is. It is an opportunity to play some youth. Like I think the young Korean Sue, who looks good from what we've seen. Also Sean Neve. I really like the look of Sean Neve. Wobberjug says, yeah, I see him there. I see him going there. Maybe, I missed out. I think you guys are talking about yourself there. James says, if we can improve the coaching within the team, I don't think you'll see Mad Dog go, Phil, did you see that? We stole up to United do for the under 21s and under 20s recruitment. Coaching with the team, I don't think you'll see Mad Dog go, Phil, did we see we stole up to I don't get that, James. Let me know what you're saying. I really want to get that message. Let me send it again. Connor says, if Howe plays Trips, who is leaving the last 3 games, then Howe will never change. We're trying to qualify for Europe. Yeah, Ian says if we're trying to qualify for Europe, I think he might play Trips. Yeah, I don't know. He probably has. There's been a number. I think Juve are linked to him as well. Adrian says we've got a young German striker. Eddie might be Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw his picture in the celebration. He wasn't celebrating. But yeah, look. Before we move on to the scout profiles, I think there's a 70-80% chance that Eddie Howe is staying on, but there's a 20-30% chance that he might not. I think there's still some unresolved things there that were pointed out through the Iron newspaper. So I'm keen to see how this plays out. I'm definitely not of the opinion that it's 100% certain. I don't think it is. I just don't think it is. James says that in the case of coaching, I think we'll see improvements in places, but we'll not see the improvement of assistant manager Eddie. We'll go, but other news have just hired Oxford. Oh yes, yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah, get that. Thank you for that, James. Yeah, he's not going to move Tinsdale. I don't think they want him to do that. I think they want him to have someone else with different ideas. I think his argument is I do have people with different ideas, but we've also got it. We can't be so different where we're not. You don't want to get into a situation where you've got someone bringing a whole different type of philosophy altogether. But we'll see. We'll see. So, but it's interesting. It's an interesting article. It's a wait and see brief, in my opinion. Um, it just says poor Nick. He can only hide in those photos if he stands behind damper. It's a wait and see on Eddie Howe. Though I do think it's 70-80% chance that he is staying, in my opinion. I think these changes are good for him as well, especially the recruitment about exiting, uh, players exiting. I think be a bit more flexible with that. And I think PIF got to be careful in terms of this data-led approach for players off the radar. I think obviously the idea is we don't want to be competing every time with your Arsenal and Man United for the same players, of which we're actually going to show that we are going to compete for, because it's becoming a big waste of time. But this data-led approach also is not bulletproof, and there's a reason why some of these players are off the radar as well. So, and we can't waste any more time of players that aren't going to work. So let's see. And Eddie Howe's pretty adamant that he's not going to work with players that he doesn't want. Interesting to see Mr. Ross Wilson chairing the recruitment. They're happy. They've got a good relationship, him and Eddie Howe. So let's see how it goes. But it's a watch this space type of brief. Certainly not done yet. Certainly not done yet, in my opinion, if Eddie Howe stays or not, though I do think there's a good chance that he will. But share your thoughts, share your opinions, let us know what you're thinking. All right, folks. So let's get into the scout reports. 3 players to talk about. Exciting players to an extent as well. So looking forward to this. Right. So we're going to be looking at Curtis Jones for the midfield area, especially the number 6 role. Very, very different. And we've talked about in the previous show about what that number 6 role is. Obviously, someone that can dictate the tempo, will help with the structure of the team, is also able to counter off the ball. Very, very good counter press and press, and have a positional intelligence in terms of knowing when and when to press, when to cut off passing lanes, when to fall back into centre back or flank positions, depending on where the attack is. So Curtis Jones is the man we're going to talk about. The man in the middle is Mr. Rodrigo Mora. He is more of a number 8 stroke number 10 who plays for Porto. So we're looking at potential dynamism in our midfield areas. Let's talk about him. He's been linked to Newcastle as well. And the man on the right, Yan Diomande, who, although has been linked to the biggest clubs in Europe, as mentioned previously, he's been linked via Indy Kyler to Newcastle. And this is on the back of if Mr. Gordon goes. So let's see what happens. Andrew's the man. He's a big fan of Rodrigo Mora. The kid is special, he says. So we look forward to that as well. So, but just to add, Yan Diomande can play left and right flank, although I think he'll be the replacement for Gordon on the left, and certainly challenges Elanga and Murphy on the right. So exciting players to be talking about. So starting off with Rodrigo Mora, this is on the back of news from Ikram Kanor, big account, big channel. I can't remember, his hit rate in terms of transfers. You can never get these right. But this is from the 10th of April. One kid, Rodrigo Mora set to break transfer records in Europe's elite circles. And there's allegedly a few clubs looking for him. And Newcastle, I think he was in this article that he was saying, were one of the more aggressive ones that were looking at him, to the point where they're ready to pay. Allegedly, they're ready to pay the transfer fee. They're ready to pay not the transfer fee, the clause. I forgot what the name of it now. the release clause. They're ready to pay the release clause for it, which is around 70 million euros. 80, he's 19 years old now. Let's see if that's the case. Sorry, I thought someone said something in the chat. All right, so Mr. Mora, 19 years old, is currently on 23,000 euros, including bonuses, a week, which probably works out between 18 to 20K. So a lot of financial maneuverability for us in terms of what we want to do. You've got a big fat release clause of 70 million euros, as we spoke about. So it's around 60 million pounds. Apparently, Newcastle are willing to match that or get very, very close to it. I personally have some doubts about that, but we'll talk about it. His current contract runs out in 2030, so it puts Porto in a very, very strong bargaining position for the player. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that's his contract. Now, as mentioned, he's attacking number 8, number 10. Let me just take off this. Actually, I'll keep it. You can see this from this season currently. You can see he plays, what you're going to see a little bit later, that he plays for a very dominant Porto side who actually have won the Portuguese league. So you can see a lot of the heat map in the final thirds of the opposition's in the final third of the pitch, in the half spaces, where he likes to take up positions. We're going to see a metric where they dominate possession, they dominate attack, they dominate goals, they dominate defending. This Porto team was very, very dominant in the Portuguese league. Hence why he spends very, very little time in his own half and spends a lot of time in the opposition half as well. Injuries, not a lot at the age of his age. He's already missed 2 games, which was last year, on a muscle injury, which was 12 days. So he's had no injuries this season either. So that's pretty good. How that would work out in a more intense league like the Premier League. We've just had Miley. We've had Miley, for instance, at his young age, facing quite a few injuries. None of them related, but I think his injury record will be tested in the Premier League. Nevertheless, a healthy injury record it is. So it keeps on saying he's 18, he's 19 years old now. I've got 2 scouting profiles from Scouting App Technical Staff and Pro Sport Agency Analysis. Both of them were in the 2025 period. They were in different months. I think they're about 6-8 months apart. And this is what they say. So role attacking, and Andrew, please do feel free to add your take on him as well. Andrew says only potential worries could be physical hack. It could be physically. Could he physically hack it in the Premier League? And that's a big one. We're actually going to talk about that. Core profile is a creative. So it's an attacking. So it's role attacking midfielder, creative winger. Core profile is a creative catalyst. So Rodrigo Mora is a highly technical attacking midfielder who excels in the final third, and we saw that from his heat map. Often operating as a central playmaker or an inverted winger, standing at 1.7 meters, which is not very tall at all, about 7. He possesses a low center of gravity that grants him superb agility and balance, making him nearly impossible to dispossess in tight areas. He is characterized as a flamboyant yet efficient creator who bridges the gap between midfield and attack with elite vision and ball control. James says, Phil, in this case, does it make a sound? We're looking at a 10. So is Eddie Howe looking to move to a 4-2-3-1 tactic by those articles suggesting it? It gives you that kind of that flexibility. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but it needs Newcastle to have a bit more, to be better in possession, and you need a number 6 to help you with that. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But yes, it gives that flexibility for sure. So key scouting attributes: exceptional dribbling. Mora uses a low center of gravity to execute sharp turns and maintain close control under heavy pressures, and he's proficient in one-on-one situations. Vision and passing. He has a refined ability to identify exploitable spaces and deliver incisive through balls to runners. So he's a passing type of creator, as well as on the ball creator as well. Off the ball movement, he is highly intelligent in his positioning, frequently finding pockets of space between defensive lines to receive the ball, which is important for us, especially trying to get uh, into those final third and into the box as well. Andrew says he's the playmaker type we need, but Eddie Howe probably wouldn't want him as he's an artist, and Eddie Howe wants athletes. Says Andrew. So he also makes well-timed diagonal runs into the box, provides secondary goal threat. He's got a high technical floor. His first touch is velvety, enabling him to control difficult passes instantly and transition into attacking moves without losing momentum. So pros and cons. Pros: creativity, agility, tactical IQ, and versatility. Cons: physicality. He is small, and he's been playing in Portugal, which is a holiday camp, in my opinion, compared to the Premier League. Andrew says he can see more at Chelsea or Arsenal, as he's more kind of suited to their style of play. Aerial duels, negligible. He's not going to get any aerial duels. Defensive work, while willing, he lacks the strength to be a high volume ball recovery. Shooting volume, occasionally prefers to pass when a shot is available, and that will get better with age. So the verdict on him: Rodrigo Mora is one of Portugal's most promising creative talents. While his physical development remains a work in progress, his vision, technical security, and agility make him a high ceiling playmaker. Capable of thriving in high possession systems. He is currently on a trajectory to become a reference player for both club and country. So the go-to player for both club and country. And so this is his metrics from this season in the Portuguese league. Sorry, excuse me. This is Porto's metrics. This is Porto's metrics. It's important for us to get the context of where these players are playing for, and you can see how dominant Porto are defending. They're in the nearly 100% R for defending. Possession, attacking 80 percentile, possession 75 percentile, so high position team, defending 100 percentile, which is crazy. You're telling me no? So aerially and on the floor, they're just they're so dominant. So you can see when they're so dominant in defensive and possession, he has the freedom to spend a lot of time in the opposition areas. Physicality 69%, not too high. Pressing 99.2%. So they are pressing there. They are spending the team spends a lot of time in the opposition half. So yeah, Wikipedia says 5'6" says says Adrian. Fair enough. So very dominant team who've just won the Portuguese league, and that's the context of where he's at, and it kind of shows you where his stats are. So he has to, because he plays for such a dominant team. You can see why his dual percentages are super low. Possessions ones are super low because he doesn't have to spend too much time winning the ball back. He's got other players doing that, and he doesn't have to spend too much time trying to get up the field for progressive passes or forward passes because his team are already in the opposition half. Now, where he does excel in a very, very big way is in the key passes. So these are passes that lead to shots on goal and ball carrying. So that shows his ability, obviously, to be able to take the ball and take on other players as well. So that's where his core. He's an elite percentile for those. 94 percentile for progressive passes, and 94 percentile for progressive carries. Excuse me, and 93 percentile for key passes, which you get when you're spending a lot of time in the opposition half. But he's producing the goods. So what does this mean? What does this mean? If you add those two contexts together. So strengths, like we mentioned, elite ball, high chance creation. His limitations, though, are low defensive output. He's the type of player that's an 8/10 hybrid. In the context of Porto playing for this really, really dominant team, and the elite pressing and defensive structure, high possession, Mora plays up in very, very stable conditions. His role is focused on creation, not control or defending, which he would have to do at Newcastle in its current state. Newcastle would have to be an elite pressing team and have a very good defensive structure to have a Rodrigo Mora for it to work out. So, key takeaway is that he's a high upside creator in a protected system. His output is very, very strong, but defensive and control limitations remain largely untested. Andrew says 60 million is still a hell of a risk if he goes tits up. Unfortunately, we can't do what Man United do and just keep chucking money and at the team, and it eventually comes good. It's true. It's true. So if you put it together, how would he fit into a Newcastle team? Role fit. If he if he was that 8 or 10 for Newcastle, he'll be that final third connector. So what he adds, he's a high chance creator, as we said, improves quality and possession in the final third. But the issues would be he's got a very low defensive output. He's not a controller or a ball winner. And Newcastle's system may be too chaotic for his strengths unless we make some changes. It will take a system tweak to maximize him, right? So what would Newcastle have to do to make Rodrigo Mora work? Would have to increase our possession and control, would have to have a slower structured build-up, would have to add a strong defensive six, which is what in the previous show we talked about. Connor says he wouldn't fit in Eddie Howe's team, in his current one for sure. And we talked about in the previous show how would have to have a very good number six, a specialist number six, in fact, to make it work. But that's what it says here. So would have to reduce our reliance on a constant transitions because Mora would not work in that. This would give Mora more touches in the stable zones, more chance to create versus set defenses. So better possession, better number six in behind him, slower base control. We know that Newcastle want to be better in possession, and we want to have a six who can help us control and dictate the play a little bit more. Whether that would happen, for us to pay 60 million for Mora at 19 years old, when those other parts of the field are not done yet, I'll be surprised if we get it over the line. But he sounds very, very, very exciting. In fact, let's have a quick look at him on the old YouTube. I'm also a little bit skeptical because of the Portuguese league. He plays in the low level league in a very protected system as well. But there seems to be a lot about him to suggest, that's the volume, that he could still break through. So that's not to say that any player that comes from Portugal Portuguese league isn't going to be good, not at all. But we have to caveat these type of things and see what it means. So let's have a quick look at him and get you guys' take. Make sure you guys can see this. Yes, you can. All right, so I might save Diomande. In fact, I'll save Diomande for Thursday. And we'll talk about Curtis Jones, because since we're talking about a number six, let's talk about Curtis Jones. Or you guys choose. Let me know in the chat. Yan Diomande or Curtis Jones. Let me know. Yan Diomande or Curtis Jones. And you can see already here for Mora, phenomenal, really, really good on the ball, really good dribbling there. Again, they're talking about that low gravity, the turn, super sharp turns that he does there. Really creative with the ball. Final third with that right foot as well. Great dummy. Oh, unlucky to score, not to score that. Again, look at that turn, sharp turn, low center of gravity as well. So you can see how difficult it is to get the ball off him. Like he's a really, really exciting player. You can tell, right? He's not going to show you any of his defensive output because it's minimal. But look, really good again. Good tap in there. He's having a phenomenal season. Again, fantastic dribbler. Really, really good dribbler. Really good. I mean, it'd be super interesting if Newcastle were to go for this type of player. I just think that we would have to have a lot around him to this. How do I say it? We're not in this. If we would need to get that number 6, we would need to get a forward that can hold up the ball as well. So we got some stability up front. But look at that, lovely. Look at that on the turn like that. Super, super interested in the ball, like super, super good with the dribbling. Very small player, but he doesn't lack anything. Turning players inside out. Again, find a lot of space there in the half turn. Let me know what you guys think. I'm, on the ball, phenomenal. I just think, I think as has been mentioned, our current team and the way it is, are we ready for him? Okay, let's see. Andrew says 60 million is still a hell of a risk if it goes. Yeah, I already read that actually. Sorry. Guys, let me know. Yan Diomande or Curtis Jones? I'm interested in doing Curtis Jones because now in the back of Mora and how we need number 6, I'm interested to do that. But anyway, Andrew says to fit into our team, we have to change it to a possession-based football. Yeah, absolutely. Connor says he wouldn't fit into Eddie Howe's team. James is either an attacking midfielder or a false 9, a very small false 9 as well. Ches says, agree, Philip. This lad would need a tactic change and wouldn't fit into it right now. Yeah, I think so too. He'll work for Man City. That's interesting. That's annoying. Andrew says him and Baltimore in the same team with the right tactic and system would be some attacking. It would be like Wirtz and Baltimore for Germany kind of thing, wouldn't it? We could swap him for Elanga. I think that wasn't towards me. Let me see. Andrew says, I do like the lad. He's quality, an excellent footballer. He'll be popular with the ladies down the quayside and big market. Yeah, absolutely. He would be. Like Ian says, yeah, it's very easy to say, oh, that the player is amazing. The reality is much more difficult. It is difficult. Ches says, if we're going to switch to a possession-based system, it would take such a big overhaul that I'm not sure we can afford. I do like the look of this lad. Looks like a baller. He does. He does. Eddie playing at centre back. James says he wants to see Diomande. Let me know, guys. I think if there's who do you guys want to talk about next, Diomande or Curtis Jones? James says, Philip, I've seen in some documents that Eddie's been told by the PIF he has to change something or his formation for next season, or he could be in the chopping block very soon. That's a possibility. I also think there's also the opposite way around where he's saying to them, you guys have messed me around with your false promises. In regards to recruitment, you need to guarantee to me that it's not going to happen to again. So I think it's two ways. It's two ways at the moment. I've seen a couple of Diomande, so I'm going to talk about Diomande, I think, unless I see a little bit more on Curtis Jones. Andrew says Curtis Jones would be very expensive and transfer fee. We've had our fingers burnt already buying Premier League ready-made players. So not keen on him. Adrian says, I think there's a potential partnership in Nick Voltemade and Usola. Could be. All right. So due to popular demand, we'll talk about Diomande. I just want to conclude on Mora. I think we're all in the chat and on the show agree that it would take a high possession team. It would take to get the best out of Mora. It would take a team with a strong defensive number 6, which someone who can control the tempo, control the pace, like a Rodri and others. It just feels like he's an exciting player, but we're not ready for him. But what I would say to you guys before we move on, say Newcastle do have this player on the radar. Say that we are serious about him. Knowing what we know about where we are currently, does it not then indicate to us that Newcastle are serious about changing things up and moving into a more direction where we are a more possession-based team, which I think we tried to do last season actually. Had we got our ball-playing goalkeeper in Trafford, our midfielder, our attacker in the Pedro who can keep the ball the ball stick to his feet when we go up front. I think that would have helped us a lot. So there was that situation there. So I wouldn't write it off totally, but there's certainly a lot more reasons why we wouldn't go for a player like Mora than we would at the moment. And it's less to do with Mora and more to do with us, probably. But it's an interesting connection. It's something I'll definitely look out for, continue to look out for. And credit to Mr. Graham, for Mr. Andrew Graham for bringing us to our attention. Continue to look out for him as well. I think he's a very, very dynamic. He's a dynamite player, isn't he? And we'll look out for him. All right. So due to popular demand, let us look at Mr. Diomande. I think is he next on the list? Hey, what's going on? Here we go. But let me put this down. All right, so you guys were saying something in the chat. I think I've missed it. Yeah, Diomande, Ches wanted Diomande as well. Did I miss something? Connor says Liverpool want 45 million for Jones. I really like Jones. I think he's exactly the number 6 that we're looking for. I'll talk about it more on Thursday. Chess says that's a good point, Philip. When we went after Bruno, Botman, and Isak, we weren't yet ready for them either. No, he wasn't. So at some point, exactly it. So um, it's an interesting one. And just as I've got other options, you do. I got them. Let me know if it's the same ones as well. Kamara says six. Kamara from Monaco, yeah, absolutely. Um, on Thursday, I'm gonna is for Jones is too much, and it's probably Andrew says I'm just thinking wages for Jones is too much, and they probably want more to leave Liverpool. I think we're going to be paying a lot of players a lot more, certain players a lot more. I don't think we can just go too cheap on too many areas. I think there'll be some areas we have to pay the money for. Either pay for a Jones or pay for the next Jones. Um, but he's there, he's available. Liverpool are willing to sell. There's some big clubs after him though in Inter Milan who just won the Italian leagues, the Serie A. So, but I'll talk about Mister Curtis Jones on Thursday and see what you guys think. But Diomande. Now, what's interesting is that in terms of just to quickly say, Diomande has been linked with everyone but Newcastle until Mr. Indikaila gave this news. Now, Indikaila is very controversial. But what makes him controversial is that he says or it's a group of people, we don't know, say a whole load of stuff. But it's very interesting stuff because there is stuff, and I don't necessarily think they throw lots of mud on the wall and sees what stick. I think they do have sources, they do have information, and often they go a lot more early on things, um, which makes them more vulnerable to get things wrong. What's interesting about this is that they've gone against the grain when it comes to Yan Diomande. Yan Diomande is strongly linked to Liverpool and a couple of other big clubs. So it's very them putting this out is a very interesting connection that they've made. So added to the fact, in my opinion, I'm not totally convinced by Bayern Munich and Barca being serious about Gordon. I think Liverpool might be more serious about Gordon than they are about Yan Diomande, and there could be a game of musical chairs here. But let's go into it. So Indicala News, this is from a few weeks ago. Now Indicala says one of our trusted sources at Newcastle. No, Andrew says here as well. We won't get Diomande. Too many big clubs want him, unfortunately. Let's see. So Indicala says one of our trusted sources at Newcastle United is stating that the club will look to sell Anthony Gordon. That's not news, but absolutely. The source states that Newcastle United have made a move for Yan Diomande. They are willing to offer a more lucrative contract compared to their Premier League rivals. And I think that's the key here, maybe, where a Liverpool, who can give it even a more lucrative contract than Newcastle, by no means, absolutely. But would they want, from where Liverpool are at, for instance, I'm going to use Liverpool as an example, from where Liverpool are at the moment, where they really need to get back to winning ways and doing what Arsenal are doing, which is going to Champions League finals and not getting knocked out early. They had a seriously disappointing season, spending nearly $500 million, and it's not even known if they're going to qualify for the Champions League yet or not. I think they will, but still, do they go for on that left or right hand side? Salah's leaving. Is Diomande the man to fill those shoes? And we're going to talk about Diomande in a moment, where extremely talented, but there are some vulnerabilities there. And what I'm saying is, essentially what I'm trying to say is, would they go for a higher or a lower risk probability in a Anthony Gordon, for instance, compared to a Yan Diomande? And would they provide this? Would they? Yeah. So I was going to say, would they put all their investment and money into Yan Diomande, yet not maybe yield or have the same guarantee of success as they would for an Anthony Gordon type of left winger, right winger? And I think that's the point. Though again, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to get him. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. And I think it makes sense for Newcastle also. So let's talk about Ian Diamande, because he does fit a lot of our criteria and a lot of our profiles there. A few of you are saying, you guys are talking amongst yourselves there. James says many reasons in his performances last 2 seasons have been. Oh, sorry, quite a different conversation there. Andrew says we couldn't get elite players last season and we were in the Champions League then. We just can't compete with wages wise with the Premier League cartel clubs. No, not at the moment. James says, but I'm sure many of these Premier League clubs are looking for opportunities around the world, but not just one player or top 50 winger looking market. Andrew says we should be looking for the next Diomande. The next Diomande would have to be 17. Diomande is 18 going on 19. But let's get into it. Let's get into Mr. Diomande and what a lucrative contract might look like. All right, so because his current contract is 18,000 euros. So he's earning even less. This is all in, bonus including, yeah? So he's earning even less less money than Mora. So they're both about the same age. Obviously play for different clubs. He has no release clause on his contract. His current contract runs out in 2030. So there's a lot of bargaining. There's a lot of RB Leipzig are in a strong bargaining position when it comes. Strong negotiating position when it comes to Diomande. And Newcastle can offer a very lucrative contract for Diomande as well. So let's see. All right, so this is heat map from this season, right? You can see, and I think the previous season was actually, it was spread out a lot more evenly between the left and right midfield, right on the flanks. So he is a left winger. He is a winger by trade. Can play with both feet, though primarily his right foot is his strongest foot. So he was used, even though this season he's played mainly on the right. You can see here, like his huge heat map on the right. He's also used on the left as well to kind of cut in and shoot, which is what Eddie Howe loves to have in those kind of inverted wingers. As well as play on the right as well, where he can use where he also is able to cut in, but also get on the right right hand side and be able to provide cutbacks and crosses as well. I actually forgot to also add, because I wanted to see what his current GA is. So just hold on a minute there for me. But he has this season, he's played 2,547 minutes. He's got 13 goals and 8 assists, which is really good. He's got 21 GA. 21 GA, most of them. He's only got 1 goal, 1 assist. No, most of them, like 80-90% of his GA has come in the Bundesliga. So he's had a very, very healthy return, goal-wise and assist-wise as well. So really interesting heat map there. Injuries, he's only had a shoulder injury this season. And he didn't miss any games by the looks of it. So he's got a very clean injury record. And you'd expect that for his age as well. Though I think Miley's one is growing compared to Diamande's. Right. So let's look into his profile a little bit more deeply. Now, this is using the Total Football Analyst and footballblog.co.uk, using their scouting from the 25-26 cycle and the updated post AFCON 2025. So I think it was which was last year. So this year and last year, essentially. So using both of their scouting reports. So role inverted winger and wide playmaker. So when he's on the left, he's an inverted winger. When he's on the right, he's a wide playmaker. So that versatility is really, really important. Now, at the time, he's valued between 35 to 45 million euros. This has significantly risen. Why is he 23 here? He's not 23, he's 19. Anyway, core profile, the symphony winger. Interesting. Interesting. I haven't heard of the symphony winger before. Jan or Johan Diomande has emerged as one of the most aesthetically pleasing and tactically vital wingers in European football following his transition to RB Leipzig, primarily operating from the left flank. This is last year. He is a flamboyant creator who combines the traditional flair of Ivorian attackers with rigorous tactical discipline of the Red Bull system. He is defined by his ability to dictate the tempo of an attack from a wide position, acting more as a wide 10 than a touchline hugger. That's interesting. So, inverted playmaking. Diomande thrives when cutting inside into his stronger foot to deliver laser accurate diagonal through balls, and his assists show that. He excels at spotting runners into the blind side of the defenders. It's really good. So close control. So he is showing a lot of signs of being an Anthony Gordon replacement. Close control and dribbling. He possesses velvety ball control, and there's that word again, velvety, allowing him to navigate congested areas with ease. His dribbling style relies on body feints and sudden changes, and we'll see that in the highlights in a moment, of rhythm rather than raw linear speed. So very interesting, very different to Gordon, who I would say is more raw linear speed, though he has those kind of those he does use like cuts and feints here and there. Tactical versatility. While lethal on the left, his performance during AFCON 2025 showcases his ability to play centrally or on the right to stretch play. Watch out, Elanga. He is noted for his footballing IQ, knowing exactly when to slow the game down or trigger a transition. Set piece specialist. He's primarily dead ball taker for both club and country, which shows his technical ability. Noted for his wicked delivery from corners and indirect free kicks. And boy, could we use someone who's also good at set pieces. So pros and cons. Pros, his vision. He's got elite ability to execute line breaking passes. Technical flaw, high level first touch ball and retention. Clutch factor, proven performer in high pressure international tournaments like AFCON. And decision making, mature choice selection in the final third. And again, that proves the fact that he's got 21 GA this season. Weaknesses, physical strength, which is interesting. I'm surprised at the physical strength from what I've seen. Can be pushed off the ball by high intensity power fullbacks. I don't know how many of them he's going to deal with. There's not too many of those, I don't think, in any league, really. Defensive output. While improving, he occasionally lacks the bite required in a deep block press. So when he comes against T blocks, he's gonna struggle a little bit. Aerial duels, negligible threat in the air due to his build and play style. So don't look for him to be scoring goals from corners and set pieces. He's delivering them, but not scoring from them. Shooting volume often looks for the perfect pass instead of taking the shot himself, which again I think can be developed through age. The verdict. Diomande is a rare breed of winger who prioritizes intelligent and technical precision over pure athleticism. Some of you would be glad to hear this. His stand-up performances at AFCON 2025 confirmed his readiness for the elite level, establishing him as a cornerstone of RB Leipzig attack. He is the ideal profile for a team looking to add a creative orchestrator for their forward line, i.e. Newcastle United. So I really like this profile from what I read about this profile. Let me know what you guys are saying before we get into his metrics. Um, du-du-du-du, uh, du-du-du-du. 12 goals, assists this season. Pretty good number for the season, including he's had a very, 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 very impressive season. In fact, let me see something per 90. I want to see his point 0.3 assists per 90, 0.5 assists for goals. He's had a very, very impressive season. I wanted to see his expected assists, but I can't find it. Regardless, he's doing very, very well. Okay. Let me see if you guys are saying anything. James says, watched him and Nusa a lot in Leipzig. I prefer Nusa, but I wouldn't mind both. Let me know why you prefer Nusa, James. I'll be keen to hear. Um, stellar player. Yeah, everything that's coming across. I only got to see him for a half a game. I forgot who Leipzig were playing, but he was very dangerous when he came on. Right, so metrics. I'll start off with his metrics before I go to Leipzig's. In fact, let me go to Leipzig first. So Leipzig are an attacking team. You can see metrics high in terms of possession, attacking, and goals, and physicality. They're not a high pressing team like a Newcastle are. And they're not kind of overly on the counters are. They do rely on transition. When you're a team in possession, you don't need to rely on counters so much. We're going to get into it. But his metrics are outstanding. 96 percentile for progressive carries, 94 percentile for dribbles completed, insane. 94 percentile for non-penalty goals. This is exceptional. 83 percentile for non-penalty goals and expected assists as well. Phenomenal. 87 percentile for assists. We've seen that. 94 percentile for key passes. This is passes that lead to goals. Exceptional. 58 percentile for crosses completed. Doesn't need to do too many crosses. These are exceptional stats. Absolutely phenomenal stats, which is why it's called the eye of many big European teams. Right, so what does this mean? So he's an elite ball carrier and dribbler, and he's a high goal threat and a strong chance creator. His role with Leipzig is to be a, like we mentioned, wide playmaker or inverted attacker. He receives the ball in space and attacks isolated defenders, drives at fast breaks and vertical attacks in terms of RB Leipzig systems, and creates an unsettled transitional moment, so not slow build-up. So Leipzig are quite a transitional team, which is why Newcastle spend a lot of time looking at their players. There's a lot of similarities between both teams. Leipzig system is high attacking and vertical team, 92 percentile for this. Frequent transition situations, which allows them to be in isolated situations. Low control, so more open end-to-end games with them. So what does this mean for him? He gets to be in more space in 1v1s, and he's able to use his strengths, which is dribbling and output. So there's a less need for him to be in tight spaces to play or be in possession control or have possession and control. So they bring the best out of his strengths, essentially. So he's a high output, can't see the right on the bottom. So he's a high output transition attacker whose performances is maximized by Leipzig's open vertical system. He thrives in space, but less proven in controlled environments, which is okay because Newcastle aren't a controlled environment. So how would he fit for Newcastle? So for us, he'll be a direct wide attacker in transition phases. Why he fits, his dribbling, his carrying, his ability to thrive in space, which would be really important for us. He's got high goal, high chance output. He's a direct threat. This matches Newcastle's vertical attacking, counter-attacking style. The risk, though, he's got reduced impact versus low blocks or slower build-up. So if people are like, "Oh, why can't we break low blocks?" We don't know. We don't know just yet if he's the man to be able to do that. And this is why maybe Liverpool or maybe elite teams who are a little bit more are better and way better in possession and even though we come along against low blocks quite often, you need players that can guarantee you that they're able to get through low blocks, which is not quite known yet of Yan Diomande. He's certainly got the ingredients for it, but it's not quite known with Diomande. So, what system tweaks will Newcastle have to do to get the best out of him? Improve our final third structure. So, more runners and better spacing. So, fullbacks essentially, which we have actually, especially with Lewis Hall down the left. So, I don't mind that too much. But I think a centre forward who can make the ball stick, whether it's you know, in some of the some of the forwards that we've looked at, your Delaps, your Nicholas Jacksons, your Romolos from RB Leipzig as well. Those type of forwards that can make the ball stick would bring the best out of him. Create more isolation, so try and get have to move the ball quickly into that final third to make sure we get him into one-on-one situations. But we also keep our transition strengths, but increase efficiency in settled attacks as well. So our current system actually fits Diomande a lot. So he's already kind of fitted to our style because we've got fullbacks that are that support the attackers. We just need a forward that can make the ball stick essentially. So he'll be a very, very, very good fit for Newcastle, in my humble opinion. Let's have a look at him in the highlights and see what you guys think. Tons of chats as always. Please, folks, do remember to like, share, and subscribe. I've had a lot of viewers today. I hope we can break the 20 likes bit. Let me know what you guys are saying. I like this. You guys are chatting amongst yourselves here. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are on Mr. Diomande. I think it's very, very promising. All right, so let's get some highlights of Mr. Diomande. I've already got to see me personally, like I said, literally a half of a half game. So not too much. I've got lots of reasons to watch RB Leipzig, not just for Diomande, but also for, let's see, Brazil Scout, I've got him. But also for Romolo, Diomande. There's another player I want to look out for, but I forgot who it is now. All right, so good. You guys can see that. Let's have a look. All right, so Diomande. Let's see who they compare him to. They've put him amongst some very big similar players. Ousmane Dembele. Goodness gracious me. All right, Vinicius Jr. and Nico Williams. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right, so let's have a look. So having a phenomenal season so far on 21 G8 for the season. Ivorian international. I do like RB Leipzig's away kit. So that's him on the left hand side, using his right foot to make the cross for the Ivorians. Being creative there. Again on the left hand side, this time for RB Leipzig, cuts in with his right. You can see there, really good dribbling through the middle of the two. Jeez, with the left foot finish. Goodness gracious me. Phenomenal. Great acceleration there. Head up as well. Look at that for a pass. Wow. Brilliant pass. Again with the acceleration there. Oh no, he's good. Yeah. He's very, very good. Good defensive output. Didn't mention enough about his defensive output actually, but it's pretty good as well. This is him again out on the left-hand side, right foot finish. Brilliant. Very good finish there as well. Again for the Ivory Coast, driving through the middle. Good. Always sees the pass by the looks of it. Plays with his head up. Looks for the opportunity to be able to burst and to accelerate through the middle. Again down the left side with the right foot. Phenomenal. Really, really good. Creativity there. Picks up the ball. That's his defensive areas there. Number 9. This has been a number 9 for Ivory Coast. Phenomenal finish. Down through the center as well. He could probably play as a false 9 for us. I wonder if these rumors are true about Newcastle going in for him. It's a bold move. Very bold move. It will cost a lot to bring him. Very creative. He does look for the pass, doesn't he? He does look for the pass, which is unusual. Well, not unusual, but he can shoot. He's creative. Again, finish. Left foot's, right foot's finishes as well. Low center of gravity. Well, he can. I like his acceleration, how he keeps the ball as well when he gets past players. Right foot, unlucky. Again, +1, +2. When you drive in and you cut into the penalty box like that, that's what's priceless because you cause so much havoc. You see his ability to chop and change there. It's really, really good. Again, down the left-hand side as well, looking for the cutback, looking for the pass. Again, down the left-hand side, lovely first-time pass as well. Phenomenal. Drives again past the defender. See one more script there. Highlight there. Lovely pass through the middle. I can see why there's a lot of hype about him. Let me know what you guys think. It would certainly be a catch if we're able to get him. Though the competition is for him is very, very high. Let me know what you guys are saying. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe, folks. James says, I definitely prefer him over Ahmad. I hope we're not looking at Ahmad, are we? I think it's Sunderland are looking at Ahmad. James says, I definitely hope we're looking at him and not Ahmad. So, well, I would hope so too. James says, I still prefer Nusa, but I have one of them will be a good option. We just need to make sure we have low block breakers. I agree. I think having a ball is mad. I think the whole structure of the team will change in the season coming up, which I kind of leads me back to Mora as well. Having a ball playing goalkeeper, a number 6 who can dictate the play, a forward who can make the ball stick, brings in the likes of your Diamandes and Moras into a system that works for them. Newcastle's current system functions way more for a Diomande currently, but it also can function for a creative player like Mora. Mora is actually very similar to Mateus Mane from Wolves, who are also looking at as well. So I do think that there is a possibility for us to become a more possession-based side. We just need to bring those elements in and around them. But I really like the look of Diomande. I think he's been phenomenal. He's looking really phenomenal. He's having a brilliant season. But we've had a phenomenal show. We did a bright reaction to the Brighton game, high pressure game. We came out on top. That even though Brighton had a lot of possession in the game and attacking momentum and close chances, I think we were far more clinical in front of goal, created the higher opportunities and chances throughout the game. And some outstanding performances from Musola, Willock, Byrne, Miley. In the end, I thought we deserved to win it. We talked about the article from the Iron newspaper that yes, they expect Eddie Howe to change, but there's about 4 different caveats in recruitment of players, especially players exiting, academy players. Would Eddie Howe also accept new staff into his circle? So it's not a done deal by any means, really, even though the Iron newspaper thinks that it is. For me, I'm like, it's probably 70, 80% a done deal that Eddie Howe stays. But there's a 20, 30% chance that there's, unless some things aren't ironed out just yet, it's not, don't be surprised if it doesn't happen. I hope it can be worked out, to be honest. And I hope we are looking at the likes of Yan Diomande, for sure. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about Curtis Jones on Thursday. But as Andrew did, please do let me know if there's players you guys want me to look at for the next show. Do see if there's links to Newcastle, though. If they have links to Newcastle, that would really kind of help me kind of prioritize those type of players. But you guys have been phenomenal. You've been liking, sharing, subscribing. I see some deep debates in the chats as well. You've been absolutely phenomenal. So we've got plenty to look at, and we will be having that WhatsApp group soon. So we'll be able to carry on those conversations as well, not just when the shows are on, but in between shows as well. So I'm looking forward to having that. But you guys have been absolutely phenomenal as well. Make sure you look after each other. And as always, folks, God bless you all.